My name is Dr. Sameera Alwis. I'm from Sri Lanka. So today we have a scattered topic called state-sponsored warrantless wiretapping and government mass surveillance over the lawful interception. So this is actually something that it's so really gravest cyber threat to the whole world. So as you can see, there are many things around the world with the people talking about so many things with regards to this subject, but most of the people mostly are uh, not talking this topic overtly. The reason that this is something sensitive, right? Sensitive. That means like the much more people have the fear to talk about this type of surveillance related topics. So let me forward into the presentation. So is my welcome, so that's all right. So skipping it. So I just actually now, since everything's in there are certain tedious theories we discuss in this presentation. So you shouldn't sleep. So it's just say anti-sleep disclaimer, right? So that's all right. So just actually funniest part. So now this is the content of the presentation right now. So certain what you call the wordings. So we explain like later stages. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 points, and we are talking about spying, espionages, right? Backdoors, lawful backdooring, interception, eavesdropping, blah blah blah, right? So as well as like number 5 comes with interception, legal or illegal, lawful interception, judicial interception. So warrantless wiretapping, surveillance, mass surveillance, and as number 9 and 10, so top secret cyberhawk and eagle eye operations, military intelligence, cyber intel command and control. Those things actually we're going to talk in the subject of this arena. So first of all, the first topic, spying, espionage in digital and cyber era. What are those weirdos wording? So those things actually will be explained. Now, in a very, very formative manner, espionage and spying is the action of the classified or confidential details in in an unauthorized manner from the authorized owner. So the undercover agents, we call it infiltrators, assisting secret services or covert agents is just like many covert defense organizations, undercover agents are basically spying these details. So they try to disclose top secret information captured from numerous sources in the world. Like, for an example, we spy some state. So in a manner like, spies deployed into the particular country, and they are collecting, accumulating the details, and finally uploading into their command and control head office or head center. So it could be any individual who's spying this information, right? It could be a service of the government, or it could be a military specialist, intelligence specialist. It could be a privately held company or self-governing operation. Could be this type of a person who's doing the espionage or launching this espionage campaign. So that's all about the espionage and spying. So coming to next point, backdoor is all about backdoor in precise manner. So the backdoor is a computer, the program or technique, right? Frequently it's lying in a secret manner in a covered channel to evading or bypassing standard authentication in a computer system or a device or embedded device or whatever the hardware, could be a software as well. The backdoor could hidden inside any digital device, especially right. Well, the application sometimes, right? So as you can see, the backdoors can be in operating systems, various software applications, hardware, virtual machines, kernel level, very deep, low level hardwares, right? And network layer, well, in the even the source code level, we call it shrink trap codes. And the backdoors are also called the trapdoor. So the trapdoors basically, that's another word actually, derived from like, the traps. So it gains the remote access over the covered channel. It's basically acquired in unlawful manner. So in the professional world, the backdoor is called as an unprofessional approach, and obviously it is illegal. So it's basically it's in the security, it's denoted as a potential security risk. So that's all about like the small piece of information about backdoors. So lawful backdooring or unlawful backdooring, it's just the two questions. So what and where those hardware implants? So that's the new word, hardware implants. So hardware backdoors, special hardware backdoors, hardware implants or hardware backdoors are form of backdoors implemented in hardware and making the covered or stealth channel through the hardware over the firmware of the computer chip. So the firmware is a small program which is actually written in the BIOS or computer chips, where it's uploaded a kind of a machine-related information. It contains the machine-related information or many other aspects or parameters of the hardware. And this firmware, inside the firmware, there could be certain backdoor implement can be implemented by many sources. And these backdoors may be straightly implemented as a hardware Trojan codes or hardware rootkits inside the integrated circuits or firmware or computer chips. Hardware implants are meaningfully challenging the security of various smart cards, sometimes several hardware security modules, which is widely used in the what you call the background, what you call communication in a top secret, what you call the top secret communication. And hardware authentication tokens, we call it I tokens, RSA tokens, and this authentication modules, right? And sometimes hardware, these type of backdoor could be inside CD or DVD or Blu-ray discs or USB drives, TPM chips, trusted platform modules, and the various microprocessors or other forms of crypto processors. Except the exceptional investment is made in anti-backdoor technology to design extraordinary method to special military and intelligence, which means that mostly if the company or a specific organization needs to have anti-backdoor technique, they have to spend a lot of money, and they may need to create the custom-made chip specialized to their environment. That you can, what you call, there are so many ways to do it. Those information available in the covert manner. There are so many, what you call, companies are providing these type of services as well. So the hardware implants have also been considered for automobile hacking, smart cars, smart tractors, and those having the central computer system, right? They may have these type of backdoors, and the certain backdoors are revealed in the world. So the next one, interception, eavesdropping, and wiretapping. So what are those things? So initially, interception is explained an unauthorized individual or a party have gained access to an asset and extremely significant or extremely important. The outside party can be an individual, an entity or a company, a program or computing or computer cluster or network system. So, well, they once they do interception, right? They may illegally copying or, or exfiltrate or leak the data over this interception channel. They can do this type of much more damage to the systems. And the next topic when we elaborate, we, we have certain other aspect of things as well. And the subtopic is called eavesdropping. It's originated from practice of standard under the roof space of house. It's just like someone actually sneak peek over the attic of a house and listening to traditional conversation. And eavesdropping, actually, it's kind of a phenomenal history word, right? Eavesdropping is a huge. It could be the life cycle of the eavesdropping could be a full time or partial time, or that means the full time or part time. Well, and it's sneak peeking the private communication. Now, there are certain examples. The eavesdropping can be done for phone calls, doesn't matter whether it's analog or digital, and wireless technologies, 2G, 3G, 4G, and upcoming 5G connectivity as well. Radio link called RF links, Li-Fi, which is lying down in the future, called lightweight fidelity. So it's under the what do you call still experiment stage. Instant messaging, video conferencing, Wi-Fi communication, military communication, top secret communication, fax transmission, blah blah blah. Also denoted now this type of eavesdropping can be lead into the man-in-the-middle attack using session hijacking. We call it in the computer security domain. And when the eavesdropping and interception in one side, the other side is kind of a wiretapping. This is actually now, this is in lining with the both about topics. So wiretapping defined in the history, the perspective, the wiretapping litigations have always data struggles balancing the private rights. Now, privacy rights. Now, wiretapping is, well, in human rights aspect, it's an illegal thing. Most of the time, the government, military, intelligence, and law enforcement, well, they do this type of wiretapping regularly in the intelligence. Like, if, for an example, if it's like, so if there's any kind of a terrorist need to track them down. So if already tracked in the list, they know where they go, where what they do, and all those things. So they could intercept or wiretap their cell phone, right? So there are so many techniques. Can GSM can be easily intercepted if it is not encrypted. Technically, wiretapping is a stealthy electronic monitoring and monitoring of telephone, telegraphs, cellular mobiles, fax, internet-based communication. Especially, there are so many other aspects of the communication based on internet can be wiretapped over the these kind of modules. So the next topic. So the legality. Is the interception is legal or illegal? It's just actually let's try to balance these two aspects. Now, interception is basically, as we explained in there, basically we are acquisition the data from any wire or wireless communication, right? And or electronic and electrical, mechanical, or any other from any other device. So when these things lying down in that such manner, interception in legal manner, that means in legal side, is gaining communication network data or information from lawful authority. For an example, law enforcement, they have a right to intercept the this type of communication, but you must need a court order. So the sole determination of the interception is analysis the evidence for something or some research purpose. A communication network data or information contained of signaling or network management information or any other sensitive information. So these communication network, they may have gain access into the data or information forms. It also consists the content of the communication as well. So that means if it's a data packet or SSL, if it doesn't matter, it is SSL or SSH or any our channel HTTP or any our FTP, our channel protocols. But there is a way to decrypt these things at the interception level. So one of the key, that means the rudimentary for legal seizure in the interception of the telecommunication by law enforcement agencies, supervisory or directorial agencies, and the secret military and intelligence services. They do these type of formulations of interception. But in country to country, the lawsuits are differ, and the interception acts may be having deviations, right? So depending on the country or state or whatever, so these things, but still the interception is always a strict manner to law enforcement at the rudimentary manner. Lawful interception and or judicial interception. So lawful interception, it denotes the services in the telecommunication and the network, telephone networks that permit intelligence, that means that allows intelligence, military or law enforcement agencies with a court order or other legal permission based on their own country's situation or country's jurisdictions. So, to selectively wiretap individual subscribers mostly, right? If it is a telecommunication scenario, it's mostly telephone calls, or sometimes they are internet lines, internet traffic. Most nation states, that means governments, requires certified telecommunication operators. So mostly every telecom provider is registered under the Telecommunication Act in any country, deliver their network with legal interception gateways. Now, mostly this is not perceptions available in most of the third world countries, but in Western countries, so this legal interception is law or lawful interception are basically is a common term. So the government also, they created mostly the gateways and their own the guard nodes to eavesdrop like this type of telecommunication interception of the communications. The end interface, that means the other interface of these gateways, have been standardized by the standardization organizations. Now scenario is from end to end. It is that the telecommunication organization is taking care, but the guard nodes or eavesdropping nodes are managed by the government, but that is not visible to the end user. So that's the beauty of the lawful interception. With the legacy or traditional public switch telephone network called PSTN, so Wi-Fi packet switching networks and soft switch technology, so which is actually operating in the telecom side, and server-based application or cable systems with modems, and the lawful interception successfully executed by gain access the mechanical digital switches back up the target communication. Now, it says that these type of technologies, soft switches, PSTNs, wireless telecommunication equipment or telecommunication methods can be mechanically intercepted. If it is a voice, if it is a digital eavesdropping can also be executed by the authorities. So state-sponsored warrantless wiretapping. Warrantless wiretapping. Warrantless wiretapping is something that for the government, in certain aspects, they go beyond, right? By defining the segment of the warrantless surveillance refers to the surveillance of the people within the specific region or particular country. Now, it doesn't, well, for this type of wiretapping, you don't need any court order, right? Because that is defined in their jurisdictions, including their own citizen. They can spy their own citizen without even go for like their legal system. During the collection of theoretically foreign intelligence, right? There's something called FOSEC, right? Foreign security, foreign intelligence security, by intelligence agencies at the section Terrorist Surveillance or Counterterrorism Act in the worldwide perception. It doesn't mean that what you call every country must do this surveillance, but well, if you consider the terrorist surveillance, like terrorists are always threat to the modern and the professional world. So to evade from the terrorist attack or terrorist like communication, because if the terrorists are communicating over the same channel, well, there should be a way to wiretap without having any boundaries like human rights and those things. Because in the warrantless wiretapping, you don't need any because nobody's care about like the what you call the nobody's care about the human rights or privacy or whatever. Everything will be ignored because it's just justifying the boundaries as because of the national security. We do this type of surveillance, and nobody can actually skip or go beyond that, because it's directly government is dealing with military and the intelligence. That when it comes to intelligence and military, that's the first aspect, and it comes to terrorist what you call threat. So it's a worldwide perception. So several top secret agencies were sanctioned. They were authorized to monitor without obtaining a warrant from the court. It could be the phone calls, internet or cyber activities, text or SMS messages, or other communication connecting to any individual party alleged by intelligence agencies to be the outside particular state. So it doesn't matter it's outside state. They have warrantless wiretapping law. Even most authoritative country can override some countries' telecommunication rights, and then just using the warrantless wiretapping law, they can always have a right to monitor these type of activities. And even if it is the other end communication is positioned within their own state, so it doesn't matter that they don't have a well-formed law other than the surveillance law, because that's the worldwide perception. So that's why this warrantless wiretapping is everywhere. So most of the authoritative countries do this type of wiretapping even right now. So surveillance, mass surveillance, and cyberlance. So surveillance is defined in espionage. It's a subset of espionage, and surveillance is the monitoring of behavior or activities, actions, or other altering information of the determination of manipulating, managing, or guiding, or defending the people or state. This consists of observation from the remote location. Now, this is actually collected from the remote location, means of electronic equipment or interception of phone calls or internet traffic as such electronically transformed information. Surveillance is used by the government and military organizations, mostly intelligence agencies, for reconnaissance, that means the information gathering purpose, and deterrence of the crime in a state. So basically, like to mitigate these type of crimes, government and the intelligence and the military organizations should have these type of surveillance acts. And the next section, now the surveillance actually goes to the cyber, and it's basically surveillance derived from the word called cyber plus surveillance is called cyberlance. Is uniquely carried out this type of act from cyberspace perspective, and the notion derived from this, as we explained, the cyber plus surveillance and called cyberlance. These forms of clandestine or covert or top secret operations now regularly launched by the various authoritative governments in the world, including military forces and intelligence agencies in the world. So when the surveillance and surveillance is there like that, and the mass surveillance is playing the vital role in the sophisticated manner. Mass surveillance is a sophisticated surveillance and an entire considerable segment of the nation. So the mass surveillance is something that we target the surveillance process, but it's now some manner we target the whole country or the portion of the country or region, right? So in order to monitor the group of citizens, sometimes like if it's like so you're part of some state, so a state decide that they spy their own nation. That is something called mass surveillance, right? So they spy their own country, but it could be like done by the partial manner or an entire country manner, right? The surveillance is frequently carried out by local or federal governments or governmental organizations. Then again, it may carried out by the corporations and defense contractors. Mostly, these defense contractors are basically, the contractors. They do the defense, activities for the government, the perspective of the government or military, and they act and the part of the government. So they have their own jurisdictions and initiatives, but these contractors are always hidden. It's mostly shadow organizations, depending on each nation's regulations or judicial aspects. So they have the diversified judicial frameworks or jurisdictions, and based on that, these acts will be carried out. The authorities and the permission required to engage mass surveillance actions. Now, the special one-time or many levels of permission mandatory to engage these type of mass surveillance acts under the mass surveillance lawsuits in their own countries. So coming up to the next point, top secret cyberhawk and eagle eye covert operations. Now it's something very uncommon words. Eagle eye. Eagle eye is the anti-terrorism initiative that teaches the individual how to identify and report possible terrorist activity over the digital media or cyber media. Now that's something called eagle eye. Now the program provides 24 hours hotline. That means it is actually it's a joint operation from the government, military, intelligence, as well as certain other clandestine undisclosed like the organization which is inside the government. Now they provide 24 hours hotline service, and people can call, and based on the facts, they're allowing information to be reported as soon as suspicious activities occurs. The nation have the right, or nation think that they need the security. They should allow to grab this information as soon as possible, and then if you have the information, just call the government and report it. And after the reporting session is done, and the reports are collected among the federal, the lawsuits agencies, as well as a certain, authorities, like in the agencies, they have a committee. We call it like commanders, right? Commanders, in the committees, in order to ensure the appropriate action is taken. The whatever, they have the action against this, terrorist act, or whatever the reported incident, they should be able to mitigate this type of scenario over their own operations. Uh, these counter actions will be taken undisclosed top secret organizations. Now, this type of counter action. Now, for an example, if a person reported that something, something, the some mass destruction weapon is distributed by these terrorists. So this is the hot news for the government. So, well, once it's reported, and it's they have the way to validate all these things, and then after the count action, there is an organization or organizations, they have their own instruction manual. Based on those manuals and the orders, they react to mitigate this type of threat, and it's appropriate to their own state. Now, certain secret agents will be deployed to find out what exactly going in, and the spies will tamper the communication, maybe the entire country at the time, right? So this type of situation not mostly uh, uh, happened in the this what do you call this part of the world, but this Western world. This entire the eagle eye operation is a common scenario in the government perspective. It's obvious the covert operation, indeed. So the next one is Cyberhawk. Cyberhawk is a top secret surveillance and counter surveillance technique led by the state, that means the government, shadow organization, that means different contractors, or any shadow organization which is covert organizations. The sole determination, the sole purpose of this particular approach is to safeguard assets or building, or could be the VIPs, very special people, the military or law enforcement agencies, intelligence squads, and many more things. Mostly used by now these type of acts, right? Is just like surveillance act. Now these type of things will be deployed over the UAV, unmanned aerial vehicles. We call it drones, inspector drones or military drones, using the nanotechnology based on invisible drones. Now, if you actually, sorry, if you Google nanotechnology based drones, you can see there are certain drones having the invisible surface. Well, it's there, so many researchers found many ways using the nanotechnology to how to be invisible. It's just like that. What do you call? Some motion pictures are demonstrating the how the invisible cars they are, and sometimes the vehicles and so many things. Just like exactly, the military drones are so invisible. You can see in the normal eye, and it's they spy these type of they spy this the covered information. So and they do intercept in using the drone technologies. They intercept the phone lines, internet technologies, and they can uh, absorb the EME and EMP, electromagnetic emittance, and or electromagnetic pulse. So, well, over the EMP and EME, there are many things can be done. Later stages, we'll talk about the air gapping and all those things happen with the perspective of EMP and EME, and they can still spy the radio frequencies and the signaling asset over the signal intelligence operation, well explained in the mass surveillance, right? So these type of scenarios can be done using the drones. Especially the military drones are very, very, very perfectly designed, truly perfect design, and utmost sophisticated technique embedded inside the military drones. So that's all about the cyber hoax. And the generic term military intelligence and command and control center, right? Command and control. So military intelligence is covert military technique. Military intelligence is not a normal intelligence. It's a covert military technique that uses the accumulating top secret information and having analytic tactics offer the guidance to direct, to assist the military intelligence in their decision, right? To counter numerous situations in terms of national security. They only consider about the national security, and in terms of national security, they do many actions. They take many actions against anything comes against the national or nation state, and that everything what you call defined in their own manuals. The objective is to accomplish by offering an assessment of the data called massive data mining using certain AI and big data uh, harvesting techniques. Those actual data from numerous range of sources engaging towards the authorities' mission requirements, responding requests, the certain questions as a part of the shadow operation and covert campaign preparation. Now, using this type of data, they're harvesting the sensitive information which is threat to national security, and in accordance to the evidence, they act using certain tactics. It's just similar, like what you call. You can see the motion picture showing the SWAT operation. The SWAT teams are deploying in accordance to the situations. Something called special weapon and tactics, right? The special in mostly like other countries, special task forces, right? So this type of thing, it's only for only focus on the national security. To offer these type of analysis, the authority's information requirements are initially identified, which are then incorporated into covert intelligence collection, analysis, and dissemination and distribution. Now, these are subparts of the military intelligence process. It provides the analysis based on the authorities' information requirements, and what the initial at the initial identification, then after the initial identification, and then it's mostly incorporated into covert intelligence collection, analysis, and dissemination and or distribution. So these three stages will be done after the collection of the subsegment of the particular information. And next one, the command and control. So the command and control is just a proactive monitoring critical infrastructure of or government infrastructure or cyber or network operation over the espionage, or usually called the spying in real time. Now, what they do is they have critical infrastructure, something called water, power, nuclear subsets, the nuclear weapons, right? Energy. So any other gas or whatever, like the oil. So oil distribution. So these things are critical national infrastructures. So those things, using like command and control, these type of things are targeted, because most of the people are trying to try to gain the control of the entire scenario. Like for an example, couple of months ago, there was actually the SCADA attack happened in Ukraine power grid. So the Ukraine power grid, and someone actually forcefully shut down the power grid over the SCADA attack. So, the command and control unit, right? It's something that it's established to typically integrate into full spectrum of cyberspace operation. Now, what they do is basically they operates in the full spectrum of cyberspace operation, electronic or digital warfare, and secret information operation, and it's confirming freedom of action for friendly forces or homeland security. So, well, homeland security and the friendly forces. So the friendly forces and homeland security is just like a common, but the special task, right? Task force. Well, they have control of the civilians of the nation state. So they have something called freedom of action. That means like whatever happens to whatever comes, they have to protect the nation. So the freedom of action means they could take any sort of action to mitigate any kind of threat of the state. So now in this scenario, it's mostly things. Most of the 99.9999 operation will be done in cyber domain, and the sometimes it designated as the covert campaign of authority and direction led by properly designed senior officer over assigned and attached forces in the accomplishment of the secret mission. Now, for an example, you get a botnet attack or nationwide denial of service attack to one telecom provider. So at the time, this command and control is having the sensors of every borders of cyber lines. So they detect this type of DOS attack. So in order to prevent this type of attack, it is not the organization who's actually victimized will take the action, but as a government, they take the action to protect the national assets. So that's called command and control. And that's actually completely a military operation. And well, they launched the top secret mission to safeguard the national asset over the cyber boundaries. In a state, the president or the secretary of defense keep the authority of the entire command and control over the armed military forces and intelligence, and the decision will be maintained by the secret command. So the sole determination of the CNC is to combat botnets, right, and DDoS or reflected denial of service attacks, advanced persistent threats, SSAPT, which means that state-sponsored advanced persistent threats, coordinated attacks over the spear phishing schemes, as spam campaigns, malware, spyware, or various Trojan attacks, and certain counterintelligence over the FIS, Foreign Intelligence Service, and hacker attacks, various hacker attacks. Detect traitors. Now, disgruntled nation. Certain people are threat to their own nation. They hate their own nation. So we call it disgruntled insiders. So sometimes like people call whistleblowers, right? Whistleblowers as the traitors as well. Classic example of whistleblower is Edward Snowden, right? So that's one of the key perspective of whistleblowers. So they threat to a national security. So therefore, the command and control try to mitigate and try to gain the entire control of the cyber domain of the country by using the command and control top secret agency, which is having this type of control in the world. So most of the countries have their own command and control. Most of these command and control is not on the surface, it is underground, established in underground centers. Well, now this shows that the threats of the government. Now, as you can see, Europe, Russia, Asia, South Africa, and America, and certain Australian subcontinents having many government attacks, right? So with military and intelligence.
The said presentation called state-sponsored, warrantless wiretapping and government mass surveillance over the lawful interception. And the first thing, the concept and the proof, the hardware backdoors. The hardware backdoors coming from China now in every embedded chip. So and every computer carries these type of chips as well. So it's, as you can see, the Winbond is a chip carrying this type of thing, the hardware backdoor, and the NVIDIA, world famous graphic card manufacturer, video card manufacturer, it's having FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigations backdoor. So always they're having these type of secret weapon which is threatened to the whole world. And it shows that the concept of the hardware Trojan, as you can see, the crypto hardware is there. So the hardware Trojan infected into the hardware device, and the hooking into the our channel of the inside, it's bypassing crypto hardware module and hooked into the our channel, and it's secretly collecting the keys before make use of the cryptographic module, and directly making the output from the Trojan's perspective. This example of the is this type of the hardware Trojan is slingshot APT. It is advanced Western threat. It's a sophisticated hardware Trojan. So we don't have time. We have very limited time. Therefore, so I hope that you reveal something. And so many things is out there, so you can actually harvest yourself and see how insecure you are when you are online. So thank you for listening this the presentation and the cyber talk, and I hope that you enjoyed and take a certain amount of knowledge within the context of the cyber talk. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant day.